It was the year when video saved the cinema star. When people at a Senate hearing didn't like what they heard. And when a popular beverage almost went into the drink. Here are the 10 most powerful, scary, touching, bizarre, tragic, exciting, provocative, ludicrous, shocking stories of the year. Who can forget 1985?
What it is, let's do this.
Middle of the greed is good decade, somehow the music industry got a conscience.
The biggest moment in American music that year was the recording of We Are the World.
On January 28th, the biggest stars in music arrived at the A&M Studios in Hollywood.
It was the single greatest collection of musical talent in one room ever.
Quincy Jones famously put a sign on the door that said, "Check your egos at the door."
And I don't care what kind of coat check room you have, it ain't gonna be big enough.
Any number of these people could sell out arenas throughout the entire world.
The roster included Paul Simon, Kenny Rogers, Tina Turner,
Billy Joel, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder,
Cyndi Lauper, Daryl Hall, Huey Lewis, Kenny Loggins,
Sheila E. and Lindsey Buckingham with that crazy afro.
Way too many superstars to list, so here they are.
Dan Aykroyd, what are you doing there?
He was hanging out at somebody's house when they got the call. And they're like, hold on. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'm bringing Dan. And the Pointer Sisters, they're all here. Girls, get out of the hot tub.
The idea of Cyndi Lauper and Willie Nelson sharing the same space, let alone the same melody, can hurt your brain.
I love the dichotomy of the voices. We are the world.
We are the children.
My favorite thing about We Are the World is knowing it was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, who had to hand this pristine, polished melody over to Bob Dylan.
It's a choice we're making. It was saving our own lives. Bob, you gotta sing it. I was singing.
When We Are the World was released on March 7th, 1985, as expected, it was a huge hit.
It became the fastest-selling American pop single in history.
It reached #1 in Australia, France, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, New Zealand, Switzerland, and the UK. Strangely, it only got to #2 in Germany and Austria.
Yeah, they were probably just upset that Nina and her 99 Luftballons weren't invited to the party.
The great news is that because of that very song, we were able to wipe famine off the face of the earth. Right? That's what happened, right?
Prior to 1985, most video stores were small-time operations with limited titles.
Then on October 19th, 1985, the very first Blockbuster opened in Dallas, Texas.
What was better than walking over to the Blockbuster video store and just seeing a cavalcade of movies?
The experience of going and getting the movie was way more exciting than watching the movie itself.
It was like Mecca for movies.
There were 8,000 tapes displayed, a computerized checkout system.
Blockbuster Video was the brainchild of software engineer and entrepreneur David Cook.
His software used barcodes that could track the movements of 10,000 films per store.
The future had arrived. Card-carrying member of Blockbuster.
It was the first membership card I ever had when I was like 12. It meant that I was a somebody.
This was a status symbol.
You had to get there at a certain time to beat everybody if you wanted to get a new release, though.
Your significant other would send you to Blockbuster, and then you'd have to go to a payphone to say, okay, they're out of Rocky IV, but they do have Scott Baio in Zapped.
You had to make sure the thing was rewound, otherwise you'd get a charge.
Please be kind, rewind.
I'll never forget the fear that I was going to be late turning in my Blockbuster rental.
You didn't want to deal with a snarky movie geek at the counter saying, you owe $4.
If you had a hot title, your phone was gonna ring, you were gonna be charged. They put out a cigarette on my pet goldfish.
We thought it was so convenient to go to a store and pick out a movie and then drive home, watch the movie, and then you had to bring it back. I would never do that today.
Netflix came on the scene and wiped them off the face of the earth.
Blockbuster's like, what? Streaming? What? Who wants for streaming? We got video and DVD. Streaming, schmeaming. We're fine.
And now it's time for a Who Can Forget pop quiz. Which action hero starred in the third and fourth top-grossing films of 1985? Was it A. Arnold Schwarzenegger, B. Sylvester Stallone, or C. Chuck Norris?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's definitely not Chuck Norris.
I am going to say Chuck Norris.
The 80s was Arnold Schwarzenegger's decade.
Arnold's got to be the one. He was in everything. No, what?
I'm going with Sly Stallone.
The answer is B. Sylvester Stallone, who was busy in 1985 raking in box office gold with Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and Rocky IV.
He's Rocky. Come on. He's Rambo. He's everything.
Yo, Adrian! Two to the top!
Pretty sure it's Harrison Ford.
Tonight in Los Angeles, there is a fear that a serial killer may be on a new path of destruction.
This one is known as the Night Stalker.
Has attacked men and women and may even be responsible for kidnapping and molesting children.
The thing that you were scared about as a kid, the monster under the bed, was real.
That was just a natural feeling of fear that I've never experienced before.
Everybody was a potential victim.
If you lived in California during the summer of 1985, which I did, the Night Stalker was pretty much all that we thought and talked about.
From March to August 1985, Richard Ramirez went on a rape, burglary, and killing spree, turning all of California into the scariest state in America.
The police just couldn't seem to get ahead of the killer, and there were very few leads.
He had been seen walking in our neighborhood. My mother was adamant. You lock the windows, you lock the doors, you don't go outside.
It didn't matter if you were in LA or San Francisco because we knew that he could be anywhere.
It was also the way that he was killing these victims. It was very violent.
Ramirez seemingly had no type. That's what made him so scary.
The one thing they had in common is they left their doors open.
He has attacked 35 people from San Francisco to Mission Viejo, and of course, as you know by now, they call him the Night Stalker.
2 of the women were murdered, their throats slashed.
Ramirez was obsessed with the occult and would often leave pentagrams written in lipstick or blood.
All that created this bigger-than-life monster.
If you were in the business of fighting crime, this was your worst enemy. Not being able to track him down, having your community terrified.
The break the police were looking for came from a 13-year-old boy.
This 13-year-old saw Ramirez outside the house during an attempted break-in.
Ramirez quickly fled the scene, but the kid was able to get the make and model of the car.
The police found the abandoned car a few days later.
And on the rear view mirror, a single fingerprint that matched Ramirez.
His picture ended up being everywhere.
There was literally nowhere for him to hide.
He was spotted in a convenience store in East LA.
And he panicked and he took off and he was running.
People started running after him and beating him with a fence post.
The crowd knew they had the Night Stalker.
If the police hadn't arrived, they probably would have killed him.
Put it this way, he was the first serial killer probably ecstatic to see the police.
And no matter if you feel like you're in a safe area, that didn't matter. It continues not to matter. You have to be on the lookout all the time.
In 1985, the World Wrestling Federation was in the middle of what many would consider its golden age.
It was fantastically crazy glorious. Back in the day, I liked the Junkyard Dog.
My favorite wrestlers were Dusty Rhodes, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff,
Andre the Giant,
Ric Flair, Nature Boy. Woo!
Rowdy Roddy Piper wore a kilt, and I don't even think he was really Scottish.
Every kid in the 80s wanted to be Hulk Hogan.
What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother?
I mean, at heart, we all want to walk around in a yellow Speedo with tassels on.
It was a great time to be a wrestling fan.
WrestleMania was built as the biggest event in the history of wrestling.
Vince McMahon's first kind of foray into the pay-per-view world.
He pooled all his resources and put everything into one big mega show, but if it bombed, he'd have been finished.
Vince McMahon, he created a spectacle.
It was the Super Bowl of crazy. We had Ugandan giants and junkyard dogs and people getting hit with 2x4s.
Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano were on hand as celebrity managers.
Muhammad Ali was the referee outside the ring.
The special guest timekeeper was none other than Liberace?
They're like, why don't we bring in a guy who gets paid in rhinestones?
Liberace took to the ring and danced to New York, New York with the Rockettes.
Why? It's professional wrestling. That's why.
Now hold on, fellas. It's a big wrestling show. Everyone's gonna watch. We'll get Muhammad Ali as a referee and maybe Liberace can keep time. Are you with me? Good. Someone should write this down.
The night of the big event, 20,000 fans packed Madison Square Garden.
Matches that night featured the likes of King Kong Bundy, Ricky Steamboat, Andre the Giant, Todd the Pile Driver Pyro, and Smokin' Joe Concha.
Those guys weren't there.
The main event was Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus Hulk Hogan and Mr. T.
Apparently the rest of the cast of Rocky III had prior commitments.
In the end, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T won,
making the world safe from tyranny?
WrestleMania is a staple today. You have the Super Bowl, you have the NBA championships, you have the World Series, and you have WrestleMania.
It's all awesome, brother.
Our story begins when Tipper Gore, the wife of then Senator and future Vice President Al Gore, purchased the record Purple Rain by Prince for her 11-year-old daughter.
And is astonished at the lyrics. In particular, she doesn't like the words to the song Darling Nikki.
Tipper Gore was able to somehow pull together a group of, quote, concerned Washington wives, which actually sounds like a reality show.
They formed the Parents Music Resource Center. The PMRC felt albums should be rated, like movies.
The PMRC put together a list of what they thought were the most offensive songs of that time.
The list was dubbed the Filthy 15.
Kind of a catchy name.
What did they really accomplish here besides curating the most awesome mixtape in the world?
PMRC Records presents The Filthy 15, including hits like Prince's Darling Nikki, Twisted Sister's We're Not Gonna Take It, Motley Crue's Bastard, and Madonna's Dress You Up. The perfect playlist for the eternity you'll be spending in hell.
Because of the PMRC, the Senate agreed to hold a meeting on what was being called porn rock.
3 witnesses testified on behalf of all of rock and roll.
There was Frank, Weasels Ripped My Flesh Zappa,
Heavy metal and makeup enthusiast D. I Wanna Rock Schneider,
and folk country legend John Denver.
They're back in the back, so who do we have today? D. Snyder. Here's what he looks like. Oh, this will be a delightful afternoon.
Songs allow a person to put their own imagination, experiences, and dreams into the lyrics. People can interpret it many ways. Ms. Gore was looking for sadomasochism and bondage, and she found it.
He said that it was the parents' responsibility to police what their children were listening to, not the government.
The PMRC proposal is an ill-conceived piece of nonsense which fails to deliver any real benefits to children. The PMRC demands are the equivalent of treating dandruff by decapitation.
Frank Zappa argued passionately for the freedom to make music that was avant-garde and terrible.
The cherry on the top of the afternoon's proceedings was John Denver.
John Denver made it clear he was against censorship of any kind.
Mr. Chairman, the suppression of a people, of a society, begins, in my mind, with the censorship of the written or spoken word. It was so in Nazi Germany. It is so in many places today where those in power are afraid of the consequences of an informed and educated people.
You could almost see some of the senators in the room short circuit.
The hearing cost like $11 billion, and the only thing that came out of it was a sticker that looked really cool on a t-shirt or a CD.
Get this one, it's cool and edgy. This is the one they don't want you to hear.
Now that all music is streaming, we've pretty much forgotten about the labels and the PMRC.
It's time for another Who Can Forget pop quiz. In 1985, Indiana Hoosiers basketball coach Bobby Knight threw what across the court during a game? Was it A, a chair, B, a golf club, or C, a sneaker? The answer is A. Bobby Knight threw a chair across the court during his now infamous tantrum. He was ejected from the game.
The guy threw a chair across the court. So he had combined pro wrestling with basketball. Who couldn't love him?
Thank you for being a friend. The Golden Girls still holds up.
Talk about a great ensemble cast.
How can you not love these ladies?
My mom made me watch it, but then I secretly found it funny.
When Golden Girls debuted in 1985, it was an instant classic.
The Golden Girls wrapped all of its plot lines around women of a certain age.
They're active, they're fun, they're dealing with real life issues. We'd never seen that on television before.
It was revolutionary.
One of the show's creators, Susan Harris, worked with both Rue McClanahan and B. Arthur on Maude.
She actually wrote the role of Dorothy with B. Arthur in Maude.
And then the suits at NBC were like, nah.
They thought that B. Arthur didn't exude enough warmth. Obviously, they did not see her calendar of tasteful nudes.
Betty White was the star of the show. I loved her.
Rose would look at the world with rose-colored glasses.
She played the perfect dumb person.
She was just hysterical.
Rue McClanahan. Blanche. She was a pistol.
She was the man-hungry Golden Girl.
So you want to do a sitcom about a bunch of old ladies in a retirement community. And they're like, yeah, but one of them likes sex a lot.
In real life, Estelle Getty was actually 1 year younger than her on-screen daughter, B. Arthur.
She famously would spend hours in makeup to make her look older than she was.
And that aging process became even more difficult when season 2 began.
Getty showed up for makeup looking even younger. She had a facelift.
Makeup! More latex! Estelle's been tampering with her face! Again!
It's one of the few sitcoms where every primary cast member won an Emmy.
Truly one of the last prejudices in America is the prejudice against older people. Golden Girls punch that prejudice right in the face.
When the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, it was a game changer.
Nintendo was everything.
So much fun. We would play all night long.
A couple of years before the arrival of NES in the United States, the gaming industry had crashed.
And they were just making junky games. There's no other way to put it.
This is a square, staring at a square. We'll call it bullfighting. What it was bull.
All this changed with the release of the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Graphics were better. It was more engaging. It was more of a challenge.
It was heaven.
Oh, no, you don't. Oh, I killed him. Yeah.
Get it. There you go.
Okay. I'm dying very quickly here.
It retailed for $149.99. It wasn't cheap.
My parents were not going to spend that. They were like, you can play Pong. Boop, 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 boop.
The first system came with Duck Hunt and my favorite, Super Mario Brothers.
Woohoo! Hee-hee!
Mario Brothers was a huge hit for my family and for me.
No matter how hard I tried, my brother always beat me at Super Mario Brothers. Always. I broke a lot of controllers.
Ah, darn it.
Wait, I don't want to hit that?
It features an Italian guy with a mustache named Mario.
It's a me, Mario. Let's find another gross stereotype. Making us proud.
He's on a mission to save Princess Toadstool.
I remember mushrooms. There was a tiny guy in a red outfit, another tiny guy in a green outfit. Was I the one on mushrooms?
You're underwater. You're in lava.
He collects coins along the way because when you rescue the princess, you don't want to show up broke.
Boop, 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 boop. Look at me, just crushing turtles.
I've never felt more alive!
Oh, hey, I win.
You guys cool if I take this one home?
The NES is credited with saving the video gaming industry.
All told, the Super Mario Brothers franchise has sold over 650 million units. In fact, the only thing higher is the people my age that are still playing the game.
Marty, we're sending you back to the future!
I loved Back to the Future.
That movie's just 100% fun.
Hands down the greatest time travel movie of all time.
Perfect casting.
You had to love Christopher Lloyd.
We gotta go back to the future!
Christopher Lloyd. He could be between 40 and 80. Nobody knows.
I found out recently that I was on the list to play Doc Brown in Back to the Future. Great Scott! I think they made the right choice.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? What a DeLorean?
Michael J. Fox was everyone's first crush.
He was a babe.
He goes back in time and encounters really his parents as teenagers.
Boy meets girl, boy finds out girl is his mom, boy loses girl mom.
He has to not only fend off the advances of his mother, but he also has to ensure that she falls in love with the biggest geek on the planet.
Getting his dad to grow some stones was very effective storytelling. Hey, you, get your damn hands off her.
The original Marty McFly was actually Eric Stoltz.
He's a handsome dreamboat in his own right, but he's a brooding method actor.
They were 34 days into filming with Stoltz, and it just was not working out.
Every time Back to the Future is a beloved memory for us, and we're like, yeah, Michael J. Fox. Eric Stoltz is like, could have been me.
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
My imagination was captured by this film. Seeing that DeLorean scream out of that parking lot with that trail of smoke going behind it was genius.
By the end of 1985, Back to the Future had made over $380 million, the highest grossing movie of the year.
85 was a huge year for Michael J. Fox. People forget the same year, Teen Wolf. So he had the #1 and #2 blockbusters of the summer.
Great Scott!
How about one more Who Can Forget pop quiz? When Nike first released Air Jordans in 1985, what did they retail for? Was it A, $40, B, $65, or C, $99? The answer is B, $65. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $180 today.
They were expensive, but you know what? When kids want something, they're happy to spend their parents' money.
In Hollywood's golden age, there were so many great leading men, just iconic guys, like Cary Grant or Jim Stewart. But really, there was nobody like Rock Hudson.
Dashing, stunning, talented. He was young Leo, long before young Leo was young Leo.
Some of his notable films include Magnificent Obsession,
Giant with James Dean. He also starred in 3 films alongside Doris Day.
They were the original rom-com couple.
He was such a perfect sex symbol. They don't make men like that anymore.
Rock Hudson was gay, and that's something that leading men had to keep a secret those days.
It was just such a sad, sad thing that he had to stay in a closet all those years.
In the 1980s came the AIDS epidemic, taking a great toll.
The official TASS news agency tonight is carrying the first reports of AIDS.
Officials are having trouble handling all the cases of the disease.
COG will hold a conference on educating the public about the fatal disease.
In 1984, Rock Hudson was diagnosed with the disease.
He kept his illness a secret.
You have to remember how shameful AIDS seemed to most people at the time.
There was no effective treatment for AIDS.
It was really a death sentence.
He appeared in the 1985 season of Dynasty, but you could tell that something wasn't right.
He did not look good.
People began to seriously speculate about Rock's health.
Unfortunately, the tabloids just dogged him.
The way they handled that was so wrong and so sad.
Hudson got weaker and weaker, and he died on October 2nd at the age of 59.
Everybody knew that Rock Hudson had AIDS. He knew it for 2 years, went public with it a year ago, but still, it was somehow shocking to hear that he died from it. He passed away in his sleep at his home in Beverly Hills.
He was the first major Hollywood star to die from the AIDS virus, and it shocked the entire nation.
A number of his Hollywood friends had known he was gay and supported him. Elizabeth Taylor, who starred with Hudson and Giant, dedicated much of the rest of her life to AIDS activism.
What happened with Rock Hudson mobilized fundraising. It mobilized the medical community.
Hudson acknowledged before he died that at least his misfortune had some positive worth.
People, lots of them, are talking about new Coke. I like the old Coke better.
A lot of my friends have complained about the flavor of the new Coke, and I've changed to Pepsi and 7-Up.
I like New Coke better by its original title, which was Bad Idea.
What the hell were they thinking?
That worked out well.
Back in 1985, executives at Coke were getting nervous because Pepsi was gaining market share on them.
And the baby boomers seemed to be going for diet drinks, Tab and Fresca.
Dark days indeed.
The younger generation was drinking Pepsi.
Coke people are saying, well, something has to be done. So they decided to change the formula for the original Coke.
It's so American. We're gonna throw over 100 years of tradition right out the window.
The Cola War is fizzing up tonight as Coca-Cola brings its new taste to town.
The problem with New Coke is not that it was New Coke, it's that it was the only Coke.
They could have made New Coke just another flavor, but the motto was go big or go home.
Everybody wanted to try New Coke. The advertisements were everywhere.
It's a hit. It's a Coke. Coke is it.
How could this fail?
Out of the gate, New Coke did well.
But the real test came in the South.
Coke's headquarters were in Atlanta.
People in the South hated New Coke.
I'll never forget when I finally tried New Coke. It was absolutely disgusting.
The company got thousands and thousands of letters from irate Coke drinkers.
Why did you change it? Some people say they don't really like it that much.
It's Coca freaking Cola. It's like you don't change it.
People were buying Coke off the shelves, thinking that it will never be made again.
There was a black market for old Coke.
We want old school Coke. Some of us want the stuff with the cocaine in the recipe.
Pepsi takes out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying the Cola Wars are over. Bring the boys home from the front. The Cola Wars are done. We declare victory.
Pepsi-Cola executives rolling in the aisles.
No question that there was one element missing from the market research, and that was common sense judgment.
Pepsi also said that Coke was no longer the real thing. Ouch.
Here's one that starts, Dear Chief Dodo.
Coke executives read that and other letters and denied charges it was all a big sales hype.
Coke had finally had enough.
79 days after they switched to New Coke, Peter Jennings interrupted an episode of General Hospital.
Jennings announcing to the country and the world that old Coke was back.
By the end of 1985, Classic Coke was outselling both Pepsi and New Coke.
There's just some things you don't mess with. And Coca-Cola is one of those things. I'm just saying.